I'm Cass Del Castillo, and I live in Topanga, way up on top of a mountain, and it's beautiful here. I was born and raised in Southern California. I grew up in Orange County, and then I moved to LA when I was 23 because I met deaf people and I found sign language. So I became a sign language interpreter, and that's been my career for 30 years, which is interesting, but not about what we're here today about. I also, 20 years ago now, stumbled into a yoga class which was, other than giving birth to my son, probably the best thing that I ever did. I'm a big fan of yoga and I'm a big fan of breath work. I heard about your offering, I heard that you were doing BreathCore. It came at a really good time for me, honestly, because I just turned 60 this year. And I have to say, like, all of a sudden, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And I feel like it's because I haven't paid attention to my core in a lot of, I have done maybe one class of yoga every other week over the last couple of months. And so I'm like, it's showing. And so anyway, when you had that offering, I was like, oh yeah, this is great because it's going to be something I can do at home. I was looking for reconnecting to my core again because I had lost that over just getting busy and also honestly aging, you know. It was very interesting because the first couple of weeks I did it, your first class, your breath core, I felt so much strengthening in my stomach, my abs, that I started pulling my back. And so I had a little bit of like imbalance. And so what I knew was that I was overdoing it. And so when I listened to some of your comments, especially the one about we have to allow the core to expand and contract. It can't just be like all this crazy contraction, like, constant. And so I realized that I was pushing too hard and I was hurting myself. So anyway, it's just all of that awareness that I had to kind of reconnect to. And like I said, I've done lots of breath work, but this is a different kind of breath work that you offer, something that's novel for me. Well, the differences is that you're connecting us to how the core relates to every other part of the body and how the core is key in making everything else function well. And actually this like central, I came to know from your class, this central sort of mechanism that's right smack in the middle of our body. And, the limbs are on either side and the core is essential to keep it strong so that everything else moves well. And that's what your class does, is that it wakens up those muscles. And I feel like they're deeper muscles. Like you said, the deep, this is one of the things you said a lot. We're getting to the deep core muscles. We're getting to that bottom layer. And that bottom layer is what activates all the rest. And so I started feeling it like after, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 classes, started to feel that bottom layer like coming on board. This core activation program that you have is really good for just getting that activated. And I think too, like, doing it in a concentrated way that you offer, but then also incorporating it, the memory of those movements into my practice later is what's really helpful, if that makes sense. Like, for example, else, like when you talk about using your back muscles, like breathing from your back and breathing from your sides, and even like I feel that now when I'm doing a down dog in yoga, I'm like, come on, activate those ribs, Cass, like get those ribs involved. And then I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing that. Now that I know, you're like, you're teaching us to feel the breath all the way through the core or through the torso. And so like when I'm doing all my practices, I can feel, even not even just yoga, like if I'm walking around, I can be like, oh yeah, there goes the breath. It's accessing it on a regular basis in day-to-day living as well as exercise. I love that you offer different times, like 5-minute, 10-minute, 45-minute, an hour, and anything that fits your schedule. So it's like, yeah, what can you do? I love that I can just tap in and do a 5-minute class, or I can tap in and do a 10-minute meditation with you. And those things are so important because we get so busy. Like for me to set aside an hour is a big deal, but for me to set aside 5 to 10 minutes is not a big deal. And it's reminders of all of these things that we all need to be doing on a regular basis. Your offering is so unique because you offer yourself as a person, a real authenticity and a real, a genuine care about what you're doing that shows. And I know the difference after practicing and being in the yoga world, in the breathwork world, and so many worlds, that I know somebody who really loves what they're doing and puts a lot of time and effort into it, as opposed to somebody who's not, in that place. And so I appreciate that. And I am very picky. I have taken classes from people all over the world, and I'm particular about who I love to spend time with. And you have a beautiful offering, really. I highly recommend BreathCore because it's medicine for your body, and its effects connect to all the different parts of you too. So it's not just a body, because for me, I'm all about how yoga is. We know that yoga means to yoke, right? To connect. And so connection is all of those parts. It's your body, it's your soul, it's your mind, it's your relationships. And that's what BreathCore gives, is that body part. But what I love about you, Jessi, is that you give that, and you also remind us throughout that there is this spiritual component. There is this like other part, this part that's not just physical, but it's the yoking of all the parts. And so I love teachers who understand that and know that. Yeah, and it's always nice to get on with you because you have such a genuine sunshiny smile, and you're really clear about your directions and the way that you give specific information and feedback, and just like it's light and it's fun. Yeah, I'm 100% a fan, 100%.